So Lecrae just dropped Church Close 4, and we got to talk about it. So it's been about a week since Lecrae's dropped Church Close 4, and honestly, I gotta say, this has been one of the best albums I've heard in a while, especially in terms of just like so much mid music that's been dropping lately. And I'm not just talking about like just mid music like in CHH or anything like that. I'm just more so talking about just mid music in general, in the mainstream, really just everywhere, honestly. Like every artist as of late has just been dropping just subpar to just mid music, really just because I mean hip-hop is not where it was once at like 5-6 years ago. I mean, if you talk to any hip-hop head or just music fan, a lot of them will tell you that 2016, 2017, 2018, that was like the golden age or the peak years of just new age rap. That was when old school rap was slowly transitioning, but those years are pretty much gone as well. And because of that effect, people are slowly looking into other genres of music just because hip-hop is just not hitting as it once was, especially in the year of 2022, the year of just straight mids. But I gotta say, CHH as of late though, however, has been phenomenal. And the amount of music that's literally been dropped, I mean, you can see the videos I've made about it as of recent, honestly, has been some of the best music I've heard in a while. I'm not just talking CHH, but just general. It's just some of the most refreshing music I've heard literally in a while. And Lecrae's Church Close 4 is definitely one of them. Especially as someone myself, I'm not the biggest Lecrae listener. I mean, we all grew up on Lecrae if you've been listening to CHH for a long time. But Lecrae was more so someone that's kind of just there, you know. Because Lecrae is like the main guy, but you know, Lecrae is someone who I wouldn't say I'm completely the biggest fan of in terms of his music. But I will say, whenever Lecrae is about to drop an album, for sure, I'm right there. You know, I'm ready to listen to an album. And honestly, with Church Close 4, I would say this is definitely some of his best work, I would say, since he dropped Anomaly about 7 years ago. So this was like 2015. Anomaly at the time was the #1 hip-hop album in the country, #1 CHH album, I believe #1 gospel album, and literally #1 like in the US Billboard, like, you know, beating out Maroon 5 and just so many other mainstream artists. And I would say CC4 is definitely, like, in my opinion, the closest thing to that he's dropped. There's so many things I could go on about why this album stands out. But honestly, I would say the best way to sum it up for me, honestly, is a few songs in particular, but Deconstruction at the very end, when he just broke down everything. And I mean, like, when he was promoting the album, he was sort of getting into just the same story that we've all heard, and that Lecrae is kind of like, I guess, like the victim of just church hurt and just church people constantly coming after him. It's not no known secret or anything like that. And when he was promoting it on the album, part of me was excited, but the other part of me was sort of confused because, you know, in my mind, I'm just thinking like, you know, I've heard this story before. You know, Lecrae, we know that church people have hurt you and we know how they've treated you and everything like that. But I guess the difference with this album, and which is what particularly made Anomaly, you know, shoot up as the #1 hip-hop album in the country, was the fact that Lecrae got into his bag and he talked about a lot of things that we've actually never even heard about. And, you know, we saw a different side of Lecrae. So we, of course, a lot of people knowing going into this album, we knew the hurt he's received from the secular industry, the church industry, and just everyone overall. So people, you know, like myself, we generally knew that, but we didn't know there was this other side of Lecrae of what was really going on behind the scenes. And hearing a lot of stuff with, especially on Deconstruction, you know, talking about how he used to look up to Vody. You know, I used to look up to Vody too, but and how Vody basically called him out and turned on him without really knowing Lecrae's personal story and everything like that, and how that really hurt him, and how a lot of that hurt he was carrying, you know, he had to carry that throughout the years, moving around the Christian industry, and basically just showing us that Lecrae is not only going against, you know, the secular industry, but he's also having his personal battles within the Christian industry as well. And breaking that down and not only deconstructing his experiences and his faith and everything like that, but ultimately reconstructing it. And it's deconstruction is I find it's, from my experience at least, it's a word a lot of Christians don't seem to enjoy hearing. But what a lot of people who dismiss that word fail to realize is that there's a reconstruction process as well. So there's a deconstruction, but then what does a reconstruction look like? So deconstruction was definitely one of my favorite songs. I think the I-45 freestyle, I can't remember the specific sample he took it from, but it reminds me a lot of like the 3-6 Mafia type of sound, just because one thing, if I live in Canada, so I'm not in the culture of just like, Atlanta and just Southern hip hop and everything like that. It's 3 degrees. I'm shivering, sitting in this chair or this bench, recording this video right now, shivering. But what I liked about I-45 was, and really the whole album, is that like I really got a taste of like Southern hip hop. And like, if you weren't listening in with the crew to when Lecrae dropped the album at midnight, hearing them, just 2 guys who are from the South, just like, really be into this album, really gave me some insight into just how influential Southern hip hop is and everything like that. But that was one thing I definitely enjoyed. I-45 I definitely enjoyed, and The Journey as well. I love The Journey, amazing song. Taking Me Up with What Up RG as well. That was like a great gospel song as well, and I enjoyed that as well. All right, my bad, y'all. So this is future me recording this. I'm not shivering anymore. It's not cold, but I quickly wanted to throw this quick bit in just because one of the underlying themes was not only Lecrae struggling on the secular end of, not the secular, but the Christian side of things, but also the secular side as well. So on Misconceptions, he goes into more detail about just the fact that I struggled to basically gain the respect of just the secular industry, with just trying to fight off certain biases and certain opinions that people were holding against Christians and Christian artists and everything like that. And so from his point of view, he just talks about the fact that on his song Misconceptions, he was okay with ultimately not being respected by the secular industry, and realizing that Christian hip-hop is a lot different than what it was 10 years ago. It wasn't lame or corny and everything like that. And you have so many dope artists such as Indie Tribe and so many more that are creating these dope spaces around Christian hip-hop, and that you can make great Christian art without needing the approval or like the respect of like the secular side. And the biggest thing that stood out to me to make this point as well was the fact that, if you didn't know, leading up to this album, Lecrae had a verse from J. Cole. And J. Cole, he's a rap legend. He's gonna go down as like a top 10, 20 rapper in the game. But the fact that Lecrae had a verse from J. Cole set up for this album, and then when you scale down the album and you have to pick 10, 12 songs that are gonna make the cut, the fact that he decided to not use J. Cole's verse, to me at least, speaks to the fact that you don't need a verse or a feature from a bigger artist to make great art. And so I think that fits very well with just Lecrae's story and just what he wanted to put on his album. Ultimately, I can say, Reach Record has been on a tear these last few months with What Up RG's new Hollywood album, 1K Fused As I Am. I didn't know that Tadashi dropped an EP as well, but he had dropped an EP as well. Reach Records has not been missing at all. And honestly, out of all these albums that's dropped, I would say, now in my personal opinion, I would say What Up RG's new Hollywood is still at the top, but I'll put Lecrae as a close second, maybe even interchangeable even. But yeah, no, I would say, they're pretty much interchangeable at 1 and 2. And then As I Am is a solid 3 for me. And then I've yet to hear Tadashi's project, but honestly, this was one of the best albums I've heard this year up top with New Hollywood. So let me know what you guys think. Out of all the Reach Record albums that I've dropped in the past 2 months alone, which one is the best one, guys? Let me know below in the comments. This one, Lecrae definitely did his thing, and he hit the nail on this one perfectly. So that's really it, guys. Take care. I'm out.